Hi everyone, my name is Sammy and I talk about human design on my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about the 731, the channel of the Alpha. So first we're going to kind of go over a little bit about the gates, specifically the gate 7, as it plays a huge role in this channel regarding what line you have after the 7. So I will go more into detail about that right at the end and kind of explain how your leadership quality will be determined based on the line. So the Alpha, to begin with, this channel is projected and must be recognized and invited to lead before it does. This is essential for the Alpha channel. If you take anything away from this video, take this away. If you are someone who has the 731, the Alpha channel, you are going to be invited, recognized as the leader for a particular group or project or whatever it is that you are invited to lead into. If you try to lead in the collective and try to force yourself into that leadership role, it will never work. It will never work. You will not be followed because it is not the right leadership role for you. Okay? So, as it being in the collective circuitry, you will be chosen as the leader. People will choose you and they will align to you. Do not push this ability or this leadership on anyone, because your group or the collective you're supposed to lead will come to you naturally if you allow patience and time to be on your side. Of course, remember, when we're talking about any channel or any gate in human design, it is essential that you follow your strategy and authority. So for an example, I am a 5-1 emotional projector. If I had this channel, which I do not, I am going to, I'm going to need that recognition and invitation regardless into a role, especially a leadership. But I also I'm gonna need to take the time to figure out whether or not it is right for me. So if you have like an emotional authority, you don't want to just jump in and say yes to being the leader. You want to spend that time about that emotional wave and figure out if it's right for you. I highly recommend that even if you do not have this authority, to remember that it is your choice ultimately if you want to be that leader or not. When we look at the gate 31, the gate of leading, which is coming from the throat gate, as you know, in human design, the throat gates all have different voices. So the voice of 31 is I lead or I do not lead. You can choose to not lead. You can choose to say, I do not want to lead in this position. I do not lead in this position, based on whether or not you believe that you are capable or desire to do so. So ultimately, it is still your choice. You don't have to be in that leadership position, even if you are asked to be in it. So by trusting your strategy and authority and using logical patterns, people are likely to elect and stay by your side as a leader. The reason I say logical patterns is that it's based on your ability to understand trends and to be able to keep up with this potential of where your collective or these people that are following you are going. It's about security, and it's about you being able to provide the security to stay ahead of trends, to be able to know what to expect, and to be able to use those resources to then navigate your team or the collective that you are in that leadership role for. A lot of the times we see this as a democratic leader, but it isn't always the case. The type of leadership is not about being in charge of a ton of people or even being in a public type of forum. It is about being a leadership of influence and not of authority. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. This is about being a leader of influence rather than being a leader of authority. That is a very powerful statement to make, because I think often when we hear leadership, we jump to this conclusion of it being about authority, when this channel is like completely is all about the influence that you're able to give off, and people will desire by the influence you give off to then follow you. In fact, the more you find yourself almost resistant to the role of being that leader, is how people are going to trust you to be the right leader. Now, when I mean resistance, I don't mean, for example, as I just mentioned, I am an emotional authority. Like if I had this channel as an emotional person and having that as my authority, if of course I resist it to the point where I'm like, I rather would say no, that's different. What I'm saying is that there is respect in the fact that you are not wanting it for this authority, for this figure of authority. The more you resist and almost question whether or not you would be a good fit, it actually makes people want you to be the leader more because they see that influence within you and they desire you for that rather than you wanting power. So, as I had mentioned at the end of the video, I really want to take a moment to talk about the different types of leadership skills that are going to come in from that gate 7, the role of self. So again, we're going from gate 31, which is the gate of leading, which is in the throat, to the G center, which is gate 7, the role of self. So if you are a line 1, so remember when you're looking at your chart, if you have the gate 7, you want to look at the number next to it. So if you have 7 and then 1, that is going to be a dictator. Essentially, it means that like you are going to have the final say, right? You're going to be more in this, not authority power, but the influence is going to be based on no, like this is how I'm going to lead, this is how it's going to be done, and that is that, right? If you have the 7-2, you're going to be more of that democratic type of leadership. You're going to have the influence of the people. You're going to want to figure out what the people want, and you're going to stay ahead of the trends and figure out how you can best serve the people. If you are a line 3, you're going to be the anarchist. Another way of saying this is you're going to be rebellious, kind of outside the system of thinking. You're going to have this leadership role of how can we do things different based on how we look at society. We're going to choose something different. We're going to be rebellious in this way. Kind of that revolutionary. It makes me think of like Star Wars and the rebellion type of situation. Like that's going to be the influence that you have as that number 3 line and the 7. So if you're a number 4, you're going to be the line of that more infectious person. You're going to be contagious based on the influence and your emotions that you're giving off, right? So if you have the gate 7 and the line 4, it's going to be all about what the vibe that you give off of. People want to follow you because they like how you are emotionally, the influence that you give off, that's this infectious ability to make people want to better themselves or to follow you based on how it makes them feel, right? They feel better knowing that they're following someone who's taking them in that right direction. If you have the line 5, so if you have the gate 7 with the line 5 next to it, you're going to be more of that general boss type of person, right? Like you're going to be more in that leadership of I'm the boss, this is how things are going to go. Now it's different than the line 1 of the dictator, which is like the final, like you're going to be essentially in charge of everything. The general, that boss, is going to be more of that final decision. Like, you know what, we've kind of gone around and we've figured out what everyone wants, but ultimately I need to step in and make this decision and be the boss in this moment. So you're going to have times where you kind of take a step back and times when you're like, okay, I need to take over and just be in charge of this and make the final decision. The last one, the gate or the line 6. So again, if you're a gate 7 and then you have the line 6 next to it, it's going to be more of that administrative type of role. So another way of saying that is like the director. You might be a person who kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like you delegate to people, right? So you are the role, you have that influence, but you're going to delegate it out to other people. You're kind of the director of what's going on, like the top of the pyramid per se, if that makes sense. So it is really important if you do have this channel to look at what line is next to the gate 7. That is incredibly essential, okay? So again, please, please, please remember that you will be invited into the right influence, like to be invited to influence the right people at the right time when it is aligned for you. And even if you are invited to do it and recognized as someone who wants, or that like they want you to lead, does not necessarily mean that you have to say yes. It is ultimately still up to you. All right, I hope that this was helpful. Again, this is the channel, the Alpha 731, from the throat 31 leading to 7, the role of self, which is coming from the G Center. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this, and I appreciate you all so much as people who follow me. You guys have been so wonderful, and I have so much gratitude in my heart to have this channel, and I love you all so much. So take care, okay? Bye. Love you.